All right, hello everyone. Let's get this daily cast started. I've got two fantastic guests with me today. I've got Barang Wu and Ginevra. Would the two of you like to do a quick hello and introduce yourselves?
Ladies first.
Hello, I'm Ginevra.
I'm a player in Australia. I'm kind of newish, but I don't think I'm calling myself new anymore. I started a little bit before um, System Gateway, and I'm also a mod admin on GLC.
And I'm Baran Wu, real name James. I'm a player from Bristol Meta, but also a honorary drop bear, as Ginevra is, because I play at all sorts of obscene hours of the day, and they tend to match up nicely with what the people in Australia and New Zealand play.
Yeah.
I actually
So
I did not realize until this phone call that you were not, in fact, a real drop bear.
yeah,
So
I am fully honorary, but I probably talk to the Aussie and New Zealand lot about Netrunner more than anyone else. So it's kind of
Yeah.
a nice
Yeah.
day to have to be on.
yeah, and it's a nice day indeed because we got some fun Shaper spoilers, the best faction of them all. Um,
Indeed.
so
You're
should we
not
start?
biased.
Let's start with the ID. We've got Captain Padma Ispister. Uh, I keep saying this, and one of these days I really gotta look through this pronunciation guide that I even asked for from Ginevra today, and you provided so nicely, and then I did not look at it except glancingly. Anyway, it's a zero link for MU standard stuff at this point. Identity cyborg. So I think this is our second cyborg ID in this set. 4515, and it says the first time each turn a run on R&D begins, you may charge one of your installed cards. What does charge mean? It means add one power counter to a card that already has one. One in this case meaning a power counter. So that's the shaper mechanic for this set is charging up. And the flavor text is the sea is everything. Its breath must remain pure and healthy. And another killer art by Benjamin Giletti.
Very cool art here. I like it a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, my mom was
Nice to see. Nice to see the older generation captivated here, since we've lost our old favorite uncles and things like that.
yeah. I was
Ian
just about to
Sterling.
say my mother gave me a lot of grief for how young and sex conventionally attractive all of the Netrunner characters are, and so now I have at least some more body diversity and age diversity to point to
Yeah.
in the set.
Very nice.
Yeah. No, it's lovely.
Was
And I
it the
also
two?
like
Oh.
that she's clearly kind of into like environmental protection, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
from the flavor text, and preserving the sea and things like that.
Yeah, it's definitely. Well, it'll be interesting to see how much these themes are carried throughout. Um, but I guess also, we've been talking. What do the two of you think about charge?
So
The
I'm pretty hype about this, just mainly because I love weird, janky stuff, especially weird, janky shaper stuff, and especially weird, janky, unplayed shaper stuff. And this fully kind of digs into that with a few of my absolute favorite shaper cards, which are uh, not unplayable, but maybe not seen enough. And we can talk about like the sort of the basic efficiency of adding an extra counter to Earthrise Hotel, but that's far too boring for me. I am psyched to be charging up things like Up Years, because that's a card that should see more play. And two counters for one run on R&D. Yeah, I'll take that. That's a deep dive trigger right there. I'm psyched to be able to play Mind's Eye as a console without like it being ridiculous. Like, that sounds super fun. I'm going to charge that up. And then we can play the most underutilized run-based card in Shaper, which is Kobe. And yeah, I
Oh,
like.
Oh,
I think a lot
Takobi.
of people love Takobi. Yes.
It's funny. I have, despite being and actually up on screen, this is Z power count or X power counter runner side and Z current, which is technically out of date because it has a bunch of Bombad cards with power counters in them, but it's a good enough start here. Um, and there's a few, but not many very good power counter cards. So this is gonna, or at least currently, very many good power counter cards. Takobi though is one of those cards I always see people playing, and I'm always like, no, please play any other card. You'll love it, I promise. But
It's
uh,
like if you've played a Takobi rig, it's one of the like it is a bit of a win more because you're like if you're running all over the place, then you're already in a pretty good position. But my word, does it become incredibly efficient. And for quite a while, I was playing Takobi in Hashiko,
mm-hmm.
uh, and you just get to a point where every run is a couple of credits at most, and you're charging everything up. And this feels like maybe we can get there, but with Shaper, and that excites me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like, oh, I don't think Otman is going to do much. I feel like importing Bachlan, maybe not the most valuable stuff. Maybe there's some fun stuff you can do with like Bug Out Bag. Um,
Yeah, I saw Bug Out Bag as an interesting one to sort of like you could definitely like for a kind of combo deck where you want to just build up Bug Out Bag, but you can't invest in it up front, and then
yeah,
you I guess like it's tricky because you might already have pulled the stuff into hand that you want, but you try and clear out your whole hand, and then you draw all of your deep dives, and you go off in a big combo turn or something.
yeah. And Upya is maybe the other card to reference here because it may be relevant for deep dive decks where you make a successful run on R&D, and then the next time you run R, you only have to actually run R&D twice to get this Upya um, to get your deep dive going. So that's kind of cool. I might skip us forward to the like. Well, I have to. I mean, what is clearly one of the big charge centerpieces of the set, maybe to Padma's console. Um, so this is the 8 cost endurance. It is a hardware console vehicle plus 2 MU. When you install this hardware, place 3 power counters on it. The first time each turn you make a successful run, place 1 power counter on this hardware, and then 2 hosted power counters, break up the 2 subroutines. Limit 1 console per player, and this is 5 influence. So we have 2 5 influence shaper cards in this set so far. But I think that's.
Ginevra, you talk about this first because I want to talk about the next card first. So you go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Um, like it's kind of slightly intimidating how expensive it is. Um, and also how much it's definitely not meant to be played out of faction, but I don't know. It's kind of amazing having a whole console is just the entire boat. Like it's kind of everything about it is like it's kind of you see her like using every aspect of it. That's her console. But yeah,
Yeah,
I also like that I could keep getting power counters. Like this, it's not up. Like it's not limiting, and it's not.
mhm.
I find it
Yeah, I
much.
think
Yeah,
I think you can kind of look at this. This is a free boomerang each.
You're you're breaking up again, unfortunately.
Assuming you're like running, it's one free, but um, let me know if this is any better. So I was just saying it's essentially a
yeah.
free
Coming through
boomerang
clear
each
now.
turn, right?
If you're Padma, yeah, right, because
If
you
you're
make a success
Padma
and
and
you're
you're
making
running
that run on
R&D.
R&D. Yeah, it's a free boomerang
Yeah.
each turn. And then otherwise it's sort of half a boomerang each turn, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
though free with an 8 cost console is I think maybe stretching the definition of free just a touch.
Yeah. I mean, this
But
is fine. We can play free emergent creativity and get it out for 2 credits or something. Like, it's
Yeah.
probably an Adam console. We'll find out. Like,
An Atom console. I
is
like
this
it.
so? I'm not always great at interpreting cards. This is basically allowing you to do any ice. You don't have to figure out, is this a sentry? Is this a code gate? It's just 2 subroutines.
Yep,
Whatever.
it's just 2 subroutines, whatever. And if an ice has more than 2 subroutines, you can use that 2 hosted power counters ability multiple times. So this is just anytime you see an ice, you can take this icebreaker and just ram right through it.
And so, would you be playing other breakers, or would you just be, this is it?
I mean, it probably
I think you'd have to have other breakers as well, and like I mean, it's more big, expensive upfront costs, but maybe this plus Ngolo probably gets you everywhere you need to go. Or maybe you play it in kit and you play this and a Cogate breaker, and then you're getting through most places, most turns. But I don't think you can, because it's so expensive. I don't think you can rely on this as your as a breaker, because you'd probably lose before you can pay for it, right?
yeah, I think that idea of like this is only breaking half an ice each turn probably
Mm.
suggests you either are doing some really funny like rejig nonsense so that you just keep reinstalling it to freshen it up, because I think that works with this, or you're running some sort of additional icebreaker tools. um, so I don't know exact yet
I
whether this
mean,
is going to. Oh, go ahead.
I'm glad you brought up rejig, because there's definitely, we can get back to the fun of test running out femme fatale and then rejigging it for an endure.
Oh yeah, because you can't. Rejig does let you go across types, doesn't it?
And then
Um,
using the other rejigs to rejig endurance. Maybe that's just a startup fun jank deck, but that sounds like a hell of a lot of fun to me.
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, a
it's
two
anything for
card.
any hardware
Yeah,
or pro endurance.
yeah, that's
I mean,
funny.
it's silly, but it's fun.
Yeah, test
Yeah.
run fem rejig endurance is a pretty funny and fun combo. And fem is only one influence, right? So you can slot
Yeah,
3 fems, 3 test runs, 3 rejigs,
that's it.
and
And then you just pull out the fems with your simul chips like later on. Like,
yeah,
I mean, maybe that's your break suite. You bypass stuff and you break with endurance, and you're good. I'll definitely be trying it.
yeah. That sounds like
Yeah.
a very fun idea to try.
And I mean, the one other thing, if Nisei would just give us back Stim, which I know isn't going to happen, but then we can Stim. We could. We could. We can card, because we can Stim hack this off a pool
Stim hack this off of Paul's.
cafe
Wow.
for for the cost of 1 brain damage, and like that would be wicked. Not going to happen.
Hey, you know what? That's maybe an eternal deck
And
now.
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And you know, you say it's not going to be splashed because it's 5 influence, and you're probably right. But I
Okay,
mean,
no, I'm going to try and
jokingly
splash it,
said,
certainly.
I'd put emergent creativity in, but I'm probably going to try playing this in Adam and see what happens, because
Yeah.
he wants to run a lot, and
Yeah.
we can try, like, do we? So failed together. So hey, let's
Ballroom,
just
I might.
quickly
I'm.
talk about
You're breaking up
the
a
fact
lot
that it costs
again.
8, because
Um,
that, especially for Shaper, who don't. Okay, wait, let me go over here.
apologies. I might.
How's this?
Well, you're coming
No
through again
worries.
clearly.
Sorry,
So,
stream. Cool.
Ginevra, where
So
were
can
you
we just
thinking of
quickly
splashing this?
talk
And then.
about
Oh
the fact
yeah,
that it
sure.
costs 8?
I don't know where I'm thinking of splashing it, but I'm thinking. Yeah, it depends how many other cards you can put together that will give you power counters.
How
But
many you can
I'd
splash?
definitely like to try it
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Byron, did you have a comment about the 8 cost?
Yeah, I'm just, as a big Shaper player, I am wondering where Shaper gets 8 credits from. I don't know. We'll talk about a card which might help a little bit.
Yeah. Let's
But
just throw to that
you
card
know,
right now.
like, let's do it.
All right, this is rigging up, and this will answer a question that came up in the chat. So rigging up, 0 cost, event mod. Install one program or piece of hardware from your grip, paying 3 less. You may charge that card if able. If there's a power counter on it, add another. And it's 3 influence. So it might be a little hard to splash 2 copies of Boat and 2 copies of rigging up. You're at 16 influence. So that's going to be a bit tricky. But the way that these two work, and let me actually quickly make a thing where I slide them apart. Okay, we'll just do this. So endurance triggers on when you install, and this says install a program, and then you may charge that, and then that's a 1 clause, and then you may charge that card if able. So the way this is worded, the endurance comes in, gets installed, gets its 3 power counters, and then rigging up's charge trigger fires. So your boat does come in with a whole extra counter if you rigging it up first. So just to answer that question. But this is
can I talk about this card?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yep.
No.
Cool. So I had underground reasons for wanting to come on tonight, because my main thing was, no matter what card got spoiled, I was going to try and start a petition, which is very, very much supported by the entire drop bear community, that Nisei need to bring modded back in whatever system update is next. And this is a very serious thing, because modded was pretty much the only econ that Shaper had for a long, long time, but was in faction. And they're like, here, have some more econ. That's great, but we're going to take away the one thing which you've got. The one thing that, like, install an Ingolo from your hand and not be destitute. And all I wanted to do was come on and start this petition, and then this card got spoiled, and I got super hype, because this might seem like a really like basic card, but this is what I'm happy now, right? Like, as a Shaper player, I've got the one card which I feel shouldn't have been taken away back, and it does a little extra fun thing, so we can have a bit of extra fun with it. But yeah, I'm like, this 3 of in like every deck I make from now on. Like, yeah. I don't care if they don't have power counters. I want to install my Anicam turn 1 for nothing and draw a card. Done. I'm happy.
Yeah, that's actually a nice interaction I hadn't thought about. Yeah, I guess one thing to note also is what was it? This can't like even cards that can get power counters, if they don't come in with a power counter, it won't charge it. So like a Takobi that you rigging up will still come in with no power counters, unfortunately, because charge is a
Yeah, because
it has to already have a
yeah,
power counter when it comes in. But
which is a shame, but you know we can forgive that just for the fact that we've got the card back. We're like me and many other drop bears are in a happy place right now, and we will be probably until all the Jinteki
Yes.
cards get spoiled. Um,
uh,
but
yeah,
yeah,
Yes. There are
uh,
so many people in Australia who really, really love Shaper. Yeah.
it it is also one of the reasons, Byron, why I've had you peg as an authentic drop bear, not just an honorary ones. I also
Yes.
analyzed Chris was saying, modded really didn't see a lot of, I would say, top level competitive play for a long time because Shaper was a lot about cheap disposable programs and SMC, but maybe with more stuff like Ngolo and Endurance, maybe where rigging up becomes more of a core of the Shaper card pool.
well, it also like it didn't see play for a long time because everyone was playing Haley. Like modded isn't a good card in Haley really because like it's pretty rare that you're installing your big things from hand.
Yeah.
You're normally SMCing them out on someone or other's turn. Uh, and so like kind of obvious, like and it's not really going to be splashed anywhere. So I think now we're in a time where modded has a much more value, and yeah, it's not big and it's not flashy, and it doesn't do loads of cool tricks, but it gives me free credits, and that's sometimes enough.
Yeah, I mean, it is doing a sure gamble's worth of value, right? And then it can also
Yeah.
charge, so that can be a little bit extra. Um,
Can
that
I
said,
can I
let's.
check
Oh yeah, go right ahead.
how it's going to work? So if you were installing Earthrise, you would
Yeah.
have 4 counters?
If Earthrise was a program or hardware, yes.
Oh, it's not. Yes. Right.
But
It's
this
very
does
fast.
only work
Yeah.
on programs or hardware. But yeah, that was
Mm,
why I led with the example of the endurance because
yeah.
yeah,
That's clearly what it works with. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Also, Kevin Thames shouting out the art on this card, which I think is also pretty solid and a
Yeah.
very nice little scene with lots of fun little details in it.
Yeah, we saw this a while back, right? This was I remember this like before any cards were spoiled. This was like a hey, we're got stuff coming up
Mm.
type thing. I remember seeing it then and everyone wondering what it was referring to. So,
Yeah, I think
and
some
it
people
kind of
thought this.
fits.
I think some people thought this might be like the console art or something. But
Nice little touch as well with the subtype. Uh,
yes,
I,
yes.
I enjoyed that a lot. It's mod subtype, which is a perfect little throwback to the card that it's clearly replacing.
All right. Well, I want to talk about another card. I'm going to start with Ginevra on this, so get your take lined up. This is
What?
Pinsel's Champ card, which is a 2 to res Trieste model Bioroids. It's an asset Bioroid. So a subtype Bioroid asset. There's not a ton of those, but it's definitely relevant for some stuff. When you res this asset, choose one resed piece of Bioroid ice. Runner card abilities cannot break subroutines on the chosen ice. So we just talked about how cool the boat is, and then here comes this card saying, nah, no boat for you today." So, um,
So is that no boat, and what else will this affect? I'm sorry, I might throwing it
yeah,
back to you, but like,
no
what else would
worries.
this affect?
So runner card abilities means you can't use boomerang, you can't use endurance, you can't use icebreakers,
And is
I
this all
actually
of the bypass stuff, like inside job and stuff, won't work?
so
Or it
you
will?
can't something like Inside Job or even Femme Fatale will work to bypass, but any
Uh-huh.
card that says break subroutine is not going to work on this card. So I think actually like Mass Driver will, if you Mass Driver the previous ice, then those subroutines will still not resolve because Mass Driver doesn't break them; it just prevents them from resolving. I don't. Sanjay is asking in chat um, if Quetzal is a runner card, and I know for a long time in FFG, IDs were not cards. So I actually
Oh.
don't know if you can Quetzal a like an Eli or a Bran or something, but
I think a Quetzal is now counted as a runner card. If I'm right, I think they changed the ruling, and it was when next activation command became a thing. I'm pretty sure that stops Quetzal, or I'm pretty sure it would. I'm
okay. Yeah, I think that's a good
I'm
point.
my plan actually a lot of Quetzal, and I'm pretty sure I thought, Quetzal's getting nerfed because too strong or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So Ginevra, now knowing this, are there any cards that kind of leap out to you that you're thinking about?
I'm wondering about whether you use this with Hakal and like kind of do a play back and forth with resing different things or not.
Oh yeah, that's
Does
a
that
fun.
work at all or not?
So I think if you like res the Carl, then de-res it, its text goes away because it's no longer active. Um,
And then
but
you can move it to another target or something like that.
yeah, I could see a deck maybe where like, oh, they run into like an Ansel or the just unbanned Fairchild 3, you res this and they get annoyed. Then they run another server and it's your Hakarl, so you get to de-res this and then get to reset it to target something else like the Hakarl that you just res that they can no longer click through. And so then they're forced to take a core damage and then end the run. Um, so yeah, and actually, yeah, that's no Moon's calling out. Yeah, if you do that, so you derez anything with a Carl, and it could even be this Trieste model Byroid, and then res the Trieste model Byroid, the Carl now can't be broken by clicks or by runner card abilities. So you're probably short of some really fun tech in a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
So
I can also see, I mean, this is affected by Light the Fire, isn't it? So I can see a lot of people wanting Light the Fire.
yeah, I think pinhole threading is also a relevant one here too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I think
I think pinhole
eight.
threading feels like the one to get rid of this. Like it's a tricky one because it's gonna work best as an ambush sort of style in like an Asa build or something similar to that, where you have a few remotes and you kind of go, I've got you, when you're trying to run the scoring remote and it turns out to be a Fairchild 3 and you've got 2 clicks left. Um, it's kind of it sounds like a lot of fun to play with. I don't know whether it's going to be super competitive, but I think it's going to be a very, very fun card to build around.
Yeah, so I think to me like what decks does this go in? And like the two obvious ones to me would be either like Architects of Tomorrow, right? That's the
Yeah,
Byroid res for cheaper. And then the other one would be Asa group. Um
yeah.
and I'm not sure I think the ASA version is more natural because you're making a bunch of remotes, and you could have a face down card in a remote, and maybe it's a Nico campaign, maybe it's a Trieste, maybe it's a Spin Doctor you don't want to res yet, and then you hit them with a surprise Fairchild 3 on like click 2. Um, and then but you could also maybe do an Architects of Tomorrow where you actually make a 2 remotes, right? And you just say, I'm going to make so much money, I will res everything, and I can use this to protect my scoring remote. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, because you can make a fairly unstoppable remote. If you've got enough time to set up this plus any form of click denial. So, we could be on MCA, or you could be on whatever the zero cost runner loses a click
Load testing, I
event
think?
is, and you can just make a very, very secure server behind pretty much like a single Fairchild. If they don't
Yeah.
have load testing, is exactly. Shout out to Seb K, who represented a deck with 3 of them at US Nats. Unrunnable remote without, but having tech on that turn. Which sounds fun. You can definitely. It's just whether that wins you the game. Like make an very close to
Oh, okay. You've broken up almost
You can't.
entirely. So, um, while you sort that out, oh,
if
so
if I'm complete if I'm completely breaking up, you're saying that I'm gonna drop from the call for now.
okay, sounds
And
good.
if I can find somewhere with better reception, then I will rejoin. But I have got to talk about Shaper stuff, so I'm already very happy.
All right. Well,
And
thanks.
just a big shout out to everyone who turned up to the event tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and hopefully, we can you're able to rejoin. But if not, it's been great having you on. So, all right,
Thanks.
Ginevra,
Ciao for now. Hopefully later.
Yeah. So, yeah.
should we move on to the next card, Bathnemus? It's
Yes.
our first Jinteki card of the season, formally, right?
Mm. Oh, I can't remember any others, so probably it's yes, definitely.
um, Also, I will a bunch of people calling out full immersion Rex Studio, which holding back the release of this card, which I think is a great shout. The one thing that will let you put an asset and an agenda in the same remote so far. But Bathnemus, I feel like this is a science word, so I should have an even chance of getting it right, and I don't think I have yet. It is Jinteki, 3 res, 1 strength, Sentry AP. Its text is, while this ice is protecting archives, it gets +3 strength, and then as a single subroutine, do 3 net damage. So this is our first Jinteki card that we're seeing, and between this and an enemy, we're seeing a lot of damage in Jinteki. So.
Yeah. And a lot all at once too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I know Kakugo is not continuing, but I've been like, okay, so I'll take 1. That'll be okay. I'll take 3 net damage. That's not so okay always, particularly if you combine it with. Are there other ice that? There must be other ice that do net damage.
Yeah, there's an enemy. There's Tithe, which is not in
Yeah.
faction. There's Karuna and Saisentan. What else do we
Yeah,
have
that
here?
combination will be difficult.
Yeah, and we've got Diviner as well.
And I guess it's also like Restoring Humanity was worrying about archives, and this is like continuing the focus in archives, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like if Restoring Humanity installs an ice on archives and like ends up discarding a card, maybe you just say, you know what, I don't feel like breaking a 4 strength sentry to turn off a 1 credit drip per turn.
Mm.
Um, so this has some relevance for Restoring Humanity, which Polana it will be officially rotated. So when you're looking for your credit generating
Extra
Jinteki
credit.
ID, Restoring
Mm.
Humanity is all you've got. And I think it's I don't I don't remember. I think I saw something about them maybe not getting an ID in this part of the set, but I could be wrong about that.
Mm. So
Um,
people, at least initially, people might be using this with Restoring Humanity.
yeah, it's definitely an option. And also like this isn't if someone is like using Revolver, this is just annoying enough probably in a lot of cases. Uh, where like, oh, I'm spending 2 credits and a bullet counter to break this on archives for ag infusion kind of thing. If you don't have an Anansi res, which is obviously like your prime target. But
Mm. Mm.
um, should we
And I
move? Oh, go
do
ahead.
like I like the flavor text. The digital refuse is their food, and you should never come between an animal and its food. Like
Uh,
that
I
combined with the imagery, I really
Yeah,
like.
I think the art on this card is fantastic. I
Yeah.
personally feel like this flavor text is a little too on the nose, but
Uh,
it's hard
Too
for me
obvious,
to.
do you feel, or what?
I feel like it's explaining the joke, um,
Mm.
but it's also hard for me to think about how I would word it better. And flavor text is hard,
Mm.
um,
Definitely.
but yeah. Um, anyway, let's move on to there's we're gonna do maybe we're gonna jump over to we're gonna do a little bit of sporadic jumping around. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna go to No Free Lunch, the criminal card that was spoiled today. This was the Reddit spoiler, which is it is
Oh,
a
wait, a Tom Brewster, I think.
oh, this was
No
Tom
free
Brewster.
lunch?
Thank you. Yes, this Bathymus was the Reddit spoiler. No Free
Yeah.
Lunch was the Tom Brewster spoiler. Um,
Yeah.
which is also super cool that we were able that
Yes.
Nisei roped in a shut up and sit down member to keep talking about the game for a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
this is a 0 cost 1 influence criminal resource with 2 abilities: trash, gain 3 credits; trash, remove 1 tag. Um,
Yeah.
so this is an interesting side print of Easy Mark and a couple of other cards. So, what are your thoughts on it?
But yeah, okay. I um I am not the world's best player, so I really love Easy Mark, and this is great, but I love the way it gives you, like, you have to make a choice because you can't trash it and get both.
Mm-hmm.
So, um and also you can put it out maybe in advance. Maybe you're going to tell me that's not the way to play, but put it out and then see whether you get a tag or you just want the money quickly.
I think that's totally especially if your economy's in a reasonable spot. Leaving this on the board is like actually I think a really smart play until you need those credits. Having the potential to do either stuff is really nice. At least in my I maybe that will end up being the incorrect line, but that's sort of my assumption when you have these
Mm.
sorts of resource cards. Um, one thing I hadn't thought about is because this is 1 influence, if you import this to Shaper and make a Reaver deck, so you get it this card becomes gain 3 credits and draw a card, which might be kind of cute.
Does this, no, where people have tried to make as into a kind of somewhat similar to Geist, does this help them? No, not really.
It doesn't though. This does have the Fall Guy part, right? That people were talking about. So yeah, this doing this in a Reaver as list, you wanted probably a few more trash cans, but Tech Trader
Mm.
does rotate with this cycle. So
Oh,
that deck is
right.
hitting a bit of a. Now
Yeah.
that said, I could, well, there might be, like, we do have new econ in the form of Chesv. So people were talking about, oh, maybe you could put that in Shaper with a Q loop build or a Masterwork build, but maybe you could do it in, you could use that as part of an econ engine in as, uh, but who knows?
Mm, yeah. And I can also see myself just getting, like, having it in my hand and just playing it and trashing it immediately on a number of occasions.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, if I'm on 2 credits and I have a sure gamble in hand, I'm
Yeah.
playing this and then playing the sure gamble, and 2 clicks to get to 9 credits is pretty solid.
Yeah.
2 cards. So, should we go on to some of the cards that Vesper spoiled yesterday?
Yeah. I love
So yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I really like the picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Are we going to
this is some
do
great art.
steel case?
Yeah. So we'll go to Steelskin Scarring, a one
Steel
cost
skin,
event.
sorry.
Um, Draw 3 cards. When this event is trashed from your grip or stack, you may draw 2 cards, which I think is a it's a subtle little twist on I've had worse, where that was if you take meat or net damage, you got to draw 3. You drew 3. So this is, that case of hitting it with damage is a little bit weaker. You're only drawing 2, but it's got a lot of extra ways to trigger it, which I think is really cool.
Mm.
And yeah, people are calling out, yeah, this worked with core damage now. Why did we not have this with max legal? And like, I do want to try an eternal max list that just uses, like, drops the I've had worses entirely for Steelskin Scarrings, or maybe plays both. But
Yeah. That would really benefit Max.
yeah, yeah. Most of the time you draw 3 cards. Sometimes you draw 5 instead.
Yeah.
Um, so I also like, if I'm gonna call out flavor I don't like, I do actually like this flavor. I think it's pretty metal to be a little reductive, but
Mm.
um, the oops, wrong one. Just did the apologies, everyone. Messed up my things. Okay. Its reactive implants reclaim the memories of our fallen comrades. Their sacrifice is our shield. Um, which I think is some some pretty dark flavor for a universe that I think has been a little cotton candy, I think, sometimes.
Mm. Can you explain why? Okay, I can see a lot of people who've been playing for a longer time reacting to the name Steel Skin. Can you explain the
Oh
backstory
yeah,
of that?
yeah, for sure. I don't know how much this is apocryphal because I was only like, I was playing at the time of Steelskin Gate, to use the other terrible portmanteau that we seem to be stuck with. Um, but uh, the idea, what happened was Order and Chaos had been announced, but there was not a lot of spoilers, and then someone on Reddit named, was it oh, maybe it was actually on 4chan, I think, named Spoiler Ken, posted a full set of, like, the entire set of Order and Chaos. And in there, instead of having a card
Gosh.
called I've Had oh, Spoiler Ken, thank you. Instead of the name I've Had Worse, the name of the card was Steel Skin. And so
Okay.
the theory, and then that was the last time Spoiler Ken ever put spoilers out. They had been doing spoilers for a lot of cycles prior, um, and then they just stopped. And so the theory that went around was that Spoiler Ken was a playtester, and that that FFG had gotten their act together enough to send each playtest group slightly differently named files so they could figure out which group was leaking the
Ah,
spoilers. I've
that's
seen
clever.
other I've seen other theories that it's like, oh, they were actually a translator, and there was just a name change, and they, that also kind of burned them. But that's at least the lore that's been handed around.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I think this card's super interesting. 2 cards is worse than 3, but it has a lot more flexible ways to get triggered. So moshing is one that people have called out a lot. You can even sometimes like blind fire a labor rights and gets like, I don't think that's going to be a good play, but it definitely is a play you can do.
And also 0 would
Yep.
get this.
Yeah, 0 definitely gets this. It's a little like I've had worse would get 3 cards off of the 0.
Yeah.
But this is, you still need a lot of card draw in Anarch, especially with Max gone. So this is I mean I think every Anarch deck is going to start with 3 copies of this, just period.
Yeah.
So it's they needed this kind of card, and I think near prints are sort of whatever redesigns can be a little bit of a touchy subject, but I think I've had worse is such a clean design, and this is a really nice little twist on it, I think.
Yeah. It's slightly different. I don't see it as a problem.
Yeah. And also just, I saw this question got answered in chat, but for people that are listening along and don't have the chat in front of them, someone asked, does this card also trigger when you play it because it's coming from your hand? And the answer is no. When you play an event, it goes into the play zone and then trashes from there. So you will, if you play this for 1 credit, you don't draw 5 cards, you only draw the 3. So... All right, let's go to the other card that Vesper spoiled. Augustina Ivanovskia.
Wait, I tried to work this one out. Ivanovskaya.
Ivanovskaya.
With a emphasis on the off.
Okay, Ivanovskaya.
Avgustina, like with an emphasis on the T.
Okay, Avgustina.
Avgustina.
Okay, I will do my best. I am not going to be perfect on this, but Avgustina Ivanovskaya. I have been listening to a podcast where someone tries to talk through the Russian Revolution. So like it's I will hopefully get slightly better between all of those Slavic Russian Slavic. Boy, I'm sounding very uninformed.
It's a Slavic language.
It's
a Slavic language.
Anyway, this card. Go ahead.
Do you want me to read it this time?
Sure.
So it costs 1. It's a resource, a connection. The first time each turn, you install a virus program, Sabotage 1, which means that the corp trashes 1 card of their choice from HQ or the top of R&D.
Yep.
Sometimes being a union rep calls for action even more direct.
Yeah. So I think it's like, this is to some extent a throwback to Noise, but Noise was a whenever trigger, and Sabotage is probably a little bit worse than Mill, because when it really matters, the corp can trash their worst card in HQ, and unless you're stacking a lot of other Sabotage, it's that's kind of worse than what Noise was doing. But this does say the first time each turn, not just your turn. So if we can think of fun ways in Anarch, because I think Anarch is the only faction with enough viruses to really get this card to sing. But find ways to install viruses off turn, particularly the corpse turn. This could start to be part of a sabotage engine. So, yeah, I don't know.
Would you say it needs to be like part of an engine, or could it just be kind of a bonus when you're expecting to have, like maybe you already had 3 Botulists in the deck and I don't know, you wanted a Tranquilizer as well? Like which viruses would you be focusing on, and could you use this as just a little extra benefit, or you feel you need to really build around it?
That's actually a great point. Is that if you're like building your Anarch deck and you're like, oh, here's my three Botulises. You know what? I could use two Fermenters in here. You know,
Oh yeah. Mm.
maybe I'm Freedom, so I'll play like two Yusufs, and then I'm also looking at maybe Leeches. And oh, I have 10 viruses in my list. Maybe I'll spending a slot for this
Just shove
card
these.
isn't
Mm.
isn't that bad, and I'll find like two extra you know, oh, Imp is a really good virus. Maybe I'll put that in
Oh
too.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, definitely.
it's and actually I think one of the things that might be interesting is like, oh, if I'm already getting in and trashing HQ with my viruses, then I'm more often getting that noise trigger. So maybe this is becoming relevant. Someone's asking Gravedigger. I thought Gravedigger would rotate. Yeah, Gravedigger is Order and Chaos, so that will have rotated by this point. Um,
Mm.
but that'd be a fun little one too. Oh,
Yeah.
Tapworm is around as well. Um,
Yes.
so that could be a fun little thing as well. Definitely, because you're sacking a bunch of corp resources in a bunch of ways. And someone was also asking, does sabotage consume? And I don't believe it does. Consumes text says whenever you trash a corp card, you may place a virus counter. Um,
Oh.
and then but this trigger sabotages the corp trashes. So you're sabotaging, and then the corp is making the sacrifice. Um, so that's unfortunately a non-bow.
Yeah. The other thing is that if you simply wanted to, like, if you had a number of other things that allow you multiple accesses in HQ, kind
Mm-hmm.
of tempting the corp to, do you want to trash your worst card? Okay, then I will go in with, I don't know, maybe Jailbreak, maybe you've got Docklands Pass, isn't it? Something like that, that you're okay, and I'll see most of the rest of what you've got.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is that if you can stack this with other hand disruption tools, even though maybe you don't need to go all in on sabotage, if you can put other
Mm.
pressure on HQ, because then you're saying, oh, you want to really juice up that HQ, or give me some kind of R&D and archives pressure at the same time without having to actually make any runs, and that could be a slot for this card.
Mm.
Um, but all right, I
I'm
think.
certainly
Oh,
pretty
go ahead.
sure I'll muck around with playing it and see what else I can do with it
Yeah,
this
I
year.
think that's sort of my feeling. Is this card is maybe I don't think this card is going to be like making a lot of top tables, but I don't think every card has to be, and I think this card has
Mm.
some really fun build around potential, which I think is like a real something we haven't seen a ton of in Nisei sets. Though
Mm.
it's not something that's unheard of in Nisei sets, but they've tended to be pretty heavy so far on like, you know, uh, what's the term? Like meat and potatoes, I
They've been
guess.
pretty cohesive,
Yeah.
I guess, and not had. It's not a stray card because I can actually see a lot of ways of using it, but not had things. I've I felt with Gateway I could almost see how I was meant to put the cards together,
Mm-hmm.
and this one, it's not as pointed how I should, but that's still fun to kind of work out how you want to.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice. At least of the cards we've seen so far, the like,
Mm.
oh, clearly
Yeah,
here's the best deck. Like here's how I put all these. Here I take these cards and smash them together with these cards, and that's a deck. Is
yeah,
a little bit less
yeah,
obvious. All
yeah.
right. Well, before we wrap it up, because I should say Sanjay said was gonna do his speed run as this was wrapping up,
Oh,
or resume his startup runner speed run. So
cool.
let's. Oh, thanks, Chris, for calling out the overclock art. It is super sick. I really wanted to get the surge art, but I couldn't find that without the card frame at a high enough resolution. So I'm trying to be at least a little punny and topical with my background arts, but we may give that up tomorrow. But without further ado, we got another piece of Sam's card. So this is a card that's been coming out piece by piece by piece. So we now have an additional piece of information that this is a 17 cost terminal operation that also removes itself from the game. It's 5 influence and has a trash cost of 3. Um, which is a wild set of things to have on one card. Um, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the rest of this looks like, and I would not be surprised if like tomorrow we get the name, and then we get the card art on, like, or we get the name and the card art tomorrow, and then we actually get the full card on Friday. Um, I don't know.
Because it's the middle bit of the text box that will be the thing that it does, actually.
Yes. So I should also shout out Zeroth Maxima, um, that they are putting they this is a mock to obviously a mock up of seamless
Mm.
launch with the parts of the card we have superimposed. And there is so little text, so that this little bit of text has to do so much work,
Yeah.
which is pretty funny.
Because of the influence cost and the actual cost, and yeah.
Yeah. And I also love that this is 17 credits. Like it's not 10, it's not 15, it's not 20, it's 17, which either implies that Sam has a particular taste, or somehow they reached a balanced decision that like 17 was the correct number for this, which is pretty wild. Um,
Mm.
which is kind of cool.
What is this going to be the most expensive card ever?
No, is I
No.
think the
What's
most
more
expensive
expensive
corp
about?
card. But
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Monolith
Yeah. Yeah.
is the most expensive card, I believe, still in the
Ah,
game, and someone's going to come and correct me on that. But this will be the most expensive corp card by 2 credits, I think. Um, which
pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm
kind of
just
cool.
thinking we were looking at both the endurance earlier, and like that's pretty expensive, but this is really expensive.
All right. Well, Ginevra, thanks so much for coming on. I hope you're enjoying the
Thank you for
spoiler
having me.
season.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, very much.
any closing thoughts? Like get the raid set up for Sanjay.
Um, I don't know. I just because it's spoiler season, you look at them and then you're like, and what's next? And what's next? And I think at the end, I'm going to actually like look back at everything and go, oh wow, this is what we've got. Whereas, yeah, the excitement of always new things each day, it's very, very cool.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be. I'm excited as we get a little bit deeper and we can kind of like step back, breathe, and like start looking at
Yeah,
deck building and things. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I will be
Thank you.
back tomorrow with our first like full day of corpse spoilers.
Ooh.
So I hope everyone's pumped for that. So, and now let's all go and wish Sanjay luck as he attempts to speedrun startup. So
Yeah.
let's all go to this. All right, have a good night, everyone.